Stranger Things Season 5 was a complete disappointment. There, that's the video. If you disagree and want to click away, I completely understand. But if you'd like to understand my reasoning, or just want more fuel for the rage this season sparked in you, take a seat, grab a box of Eggo waffles accompanied by your favorite fork, and let's talk about the way this show broke my heart. I really mean that, by the way. This show broke my heart. And I don't use that phrase lightly when talking about movies and TV shows. I haven't felt this yucky about a beloved pop culture phenomenon since I was forced to watch Disney take Star Wars and beat it to death with a stick. After watching the finale, my wife and I went back and forth for days talking about everything that was disappointing about it. I would soon come to find that we weren't the only ones either. Anyone who even peeked at the internet would find comment sections under clips of the finale that were full of fans just ripping into this season. The final fight is too short. Where are the Demogorgons and Demodogs? Why did Will decide to come out 5 minutes before their time-sensitive world-saving plan? But alas, this video isn't called Why Stranger Things Season 5 Was Disappointing, because that isn't what I want to talk about. I'm sure we've all heard just about every complaint there could be at this point, and trust me, I could go on for hours about how Season 4 was better in every way. Literally every way. Like, my god, just look at these two clips. I mean, seriously, how do you go from this to that? Anyway, what I really want to talk about is how I am haunted by this season's potential. Because unlike Star Wars, I can't say Season 5 of Stranger Things is so offensive that it's unwatchable. I can only say that it was disappointing, underwhelming, and just bad enough for me to wish they made Season 4 the end of it all. In fact, it was so disappointing that what seemed to be the entirety of the Stranger Things fan base decided to share a psychosis-like event called Conformity Gate, which somehow, in my opinion, made this all hurt way more than it needed to. Because, I'm sorry, but that theory is perhaps the most "I'm 12 and haven't accepted that movies and TV shows can suck" theory that I have ever heard. And I'm sorry if that sounds too harsh. I really honestly am, because I see why people were grasping so hard to make something of this season. Because the thing is, it has the bones to be something amazing. There are so many things this season has to offer that are so cool. Like, hear me out, just to list a few. 1. Will's connection with Vecna is so fun, and it could be used and is used in so many creative ways that does and could make for incredibly intense scenes. 2. Eleven realizing that this problem will never stop unless the military and the world thinks her and Vecna's psychic abilities are gone for good is such a good thing to put in there. It adds so much more, I would say, finality to it all. And 3, the discovery of the Upside Down actually being a bridge between worlds is so cool. So cool that even I can suspend my disbelief for how they went 4 seasons without noticing this giant wall in that realm. There's even more outside of those things. And that leads me into what I really want this video to be about. I don't want to mourn what they did to this show, but instead I want to mourn what could have been. So, while I am going to talk about my problems with what they did this season, I want the focus to be more on how easy it would have been to fix so many of these issues. That means that for the remainder of my runtime here, I am going to fix Stranger Things Season 5. This is not going to be a complete rewrite of the season, because I already tried that and just half of episode 1 was 10 pages, but instead I'm going to find my biggest issues with this season and change them to where they work for me. Let me disclose that I am challenging myself here by deciding to keep the groundwork this season has made for us, meaning that I plan on trying to keep every major story beat intact. I'd also like to add that I am not some self-proclaimed professional writer. These are just my opinions and ideas on what could have been different this season to improve it. And if you disagree, that's okay. Feel free to drop your own opinions down in the comment section. And hey, if you do agree, or just really like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm a very small YouTube channel who is still trying to figure out what kind of videos he wants to make, and the best way for me to figure out what's working and what is entertaining to people is the way you interact with the video and my channel. So The more the merrier. Anyway, let's get back to the video. I plan on making some big changes. Some I will get into more than others, because, as you can probably tell, this season needs a lot of touching up. So, enough with the chit-chat. Let's go ahead and work through the list of the many things I found disappointing, alongside my ideas for what could have been. Number 1. Hawkins, Indiana wasn't strange enough. So, a lot of people, including myself, were very thrown off by the first episode. I don't know if I should have watched any trailers before this season or something, but with how season 4 ended, I was half expecting this to be a full-blown apocalyptic war scenario where Hawkins was being invaded by Demogorgon armies. And that would have been cool, but I can understand how it may be hard to create an 8-episode season out of this scenario. But what did they think of? Instead of labeling it, I will just reenact how I reacted to the beginning of this season. Okay, here we go, season 5 of Stranger Things, I'm so excited! Alright, so Hawkins has been taken over by the military, that's cool, that makes sense. I wonder how much of a problem the rift has been for them. They just bandaged it up. Okay. Vecna opened all of that just to let it get covered by metal plates. That's fine too, I guess. Okay, well, I'm sure that smoke he released through it has some repercussions for the people here. It does not. Robin mentions it once, and the dead plants/smoke are never mentioned again. Wait, are they still fucking going to school? Anyway, you get my point. The way last season ended almost feels like a lie with how normal life still is in Hawkins. To fix this, we need some big changes, but not big enough to throw away any of the plot. Let me paint a picture of what I'm envisioning. Imagine a town that has a constant dust storm problem, and that dust storm is causing a blight. Almost like The World in Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. Now, make that dust gray like how it was depicted in the end of season 4. With that in mind, imagine the first scene of Robin bringing us up to speed with what's been going on her radio broadcast. While she's talking, we could be depicting scenes of places like the Wheelers or Byers' house, now surrounded by the dead gray plants and trees. Maybe show us some neighborhoods where residents are desperately trying to keep some plant life alive, to little success. Then, cut to the perimeter the military have set up, showing us that this is right where the blight stops, with a line of angry civilians in cars arguing with officers to be let out. Then, show us some scenes of sirens going off, telling the residents of Hawkins to hide indoors and put on masks because another upside-down dust storm is about to erupt. And when I say erupt, I mean erupt. You know those metal bandages in Hawkins that they have over the rift? Well, I don't like how easy that just plugs up the upside down. I think it would be way cooler if every now and then the dust erupts out of a random point in the rift, causing a storm. They could even make it to where one of these storms is what causes Robin's radio show to stop broadcasting initially. Finally, show us how this dust has been causing individuals to get sick. Robin even mentions that they all have mandatory medical checkups due to the dust, but we never really see how this has been affecting Hawkins at all. Give us scenes of residents sick in the hospital. They could even get real scary with this and show that they are coughing up some black sludge or something. Now, since the story still requires it, and I am not trying to rewrite this whole season, yes, the kids still go to school. But I do have some ideas on how this new storm thing could impact the story. For example, you can make it to where the military has to enter the Upside Down when these happen because they have to fix the problem from both sides for some reason. Which, in turn, helps to make the crawls more believable because Hopper has more cover when entering their vehicles. Like, how did no one see him? Anyway, you could make it to where these storms are a tool used by Vecna to let his Demogorgons get in and out without being seen by the military. Or again, you could get really weird with it and make it to where it's the way Vecna has been able to use his influence on the children. I could go on and on about the possible applications of this, but more than anything, this first change would make Hawkins feel like it has been truly affected by the events of Season 4, which felt so impactful at the time. And it also makes our hero's mission not only feel more important, but more urgent than ever. So, now since we have our more intimidating setting, let's move on to the next change. Number 2, housekeeping. I'm using this section to just clean up some of the character work, while not getting too in depth with how their dialogue/actions change because this video is already long enough. Let's start with my biggest complaint. Edgy Dustin. I feel the way they handled Dustin this season was terrible. It was so bad that it literally made the show hard to watch when he was on screen, especially when he's around Steve. I understand that Dustin needs to deal with his trauma post Eddie's death. Both Nancy and Joyce had to after Barbara and Bob died, but this was not the way to do it with who I consider to be the sweetheart of this show. You don't take the Golden Retriever character and make him rabid to show he's hurting. You just don't. And you know what? I'll even admit that on this one, I could be completely wrong, but I don't care. He sucked to watch for the majority of the season, and something has to change about him for my own hypothetical season 5 here. So, this is how I would do it. He is acting exactly the same that he has in previous seasons, but he is working his ass off to an extent that the others are worried about him. He spends all of his time at the Squawk, trying to find new, possible ways to locate where Vecna is hiding in the Upside Down. Sometimes he forgets to eat or sleep, and this neglect for himself has been noticed by Steve, who feels like he hasn't really been able to truly talk with Dustin since Eddie. In my opinion, this not only feels more faithful to the character we've grown to know and love, but also can make for way more heartfelt interactions from him throughout the season. Dustin is not the kind of guy to get aggressive over his own issues, and he would never do anything to intentionally push his friends away. I know this means many scenes with him would be different this season, but I think you could have the same events and actions take place, just with a different, more caring tone of conversation, and boom, Dustin has a better arc this season. This next one is debatable, and I don't know if it would hurt the season or not, but I feel if it's done correctly, it could strengthen this finale. We are going to take away a lot of Holly's screen time. So much focus is put on her this season, and while it isn't terrible and I'm not annoyed by her character or anything, I feel like it would have been better spent on the main cast that we have been alongside this entire time. I am not going to dive too deep into this at all. I don't want to rewatch enough of her scenes to figure out how to make it work. I don't even want to think too deep in it. I just want to get it out there that I think too much screen time was given to Holly this season. Now, this next little housekeeping task has been one of the most controversial for many reasons. Some way more stupid than others, but let's make one change to Will's coming out scene. Many thought it was poorly written, or hated how many people were there, and the really dumb critics were legitimately mad at him for not ending up with Mike. I am not even gonna comment on who thinks that, and will only say that the people truly making that argument are exactly who I expect to unironically enjoy Riverdale. I do find merit for the other two claims though, but as someone who, as far as he knows, is straight, I don't feel qualified to try and write it better. I will say that the amount of people was definitely a bit much, but if we are keeping the concept of this is the one thing Vecna has on Will to keep him afraid, I guess it makes sense he needs everyone involved in this fight to know. What I personally have the biggest issue with, and the thing that really just took me out of every second of this scene, was the timing. Will is about to come out to the most important person for him to give this information to, his only parent. Then Mike shoots his head through the door and is like, "Okay guys, we have to be out of this station in 5 minutes to start our incredibly time-sensitive plan to save the world and stop the literal devil." And Will hears this and is like,
and it continues to sort of burn, but I've gotten to the point, you should know this too,
and brings everyone inside. It not only disturbs the pacing of this episode, but it just feels like the stupidest time to have this conversation. So my solution is to put this scene literally anywhere before the end game plan is made. And I think it works 1,000 times better. Okay, I know this section of the video wasn't too important, and many parts of it were probably way more nitpicky than even I would like. But I wanted to get it out of the way before getting into the real meat of this video. So let's get a little more serious. Number 3, the Upside Down wasn't dangerous enough. This one's real short and simple. While I did paint a complete picture as to what my post-season 4 Hawkins would look like, I don't really feel like I need to do that with the Upside Down. Why? Because we have already seen it. The fact that our characters are able to walk around this literal hell dimension with no opposition besides the military was such a stupid choice. I know there's a Demogorgon on episode 1, but this season has more of the Upside Down than any prior. Why do I feel like it's the safest it has ever been? It's the final season. This should not be the case for such an iconic location for this series. So, this change is simple. Bring back the bats and demodogs. I understand the whole concept of saving the Demogorgons for big moments, but the Upside Down should not feel like a walk in the park. You could have the exact same plot points, but just occasionally throw in 11 killing a demodog or demoback, and hell, you could even make it easy for her. She is our superhero character, and she is supposed to be stronger than she has ever been this season. Show it to me! Show that nothing besides Vecna or the Mind Flayer can really hurt her anymore. Now, I know that there are moments in this season where we have characters in the Upside Down that are separate from 11, but I have a solution to that. We need more screen time for us to have the scenes where they deal with these creatures from time to time. Which brings me to my next, and maybe my biggest change. Number 4, Dr. K is no longer in this season, and neither is 8. Okay, like I said, this might be my biggest change, and definitely influences the plot the most. But let me explain my reasoning, and explain how it can still work. I think that most can agree that this season is way too crowded. So, I am removing what are, in my opinion, the 2 worst characters in this season. Let's start with my least favorite, Dr. K. Last season, it is well established that Papa is dead. And now, 11's last obstacle is Vecna. We need to keep it that way. For one, Dr. K is nowhere near as interesting as Papa was. And every time she's on screen, I'm only thinking, why am I seeing what she's doing instead of Vecna? Now, if she was introduced seasons ago, and I had more time to have her character built up, I might be more interested. But you can't just throw this uninteresting poor replica of a past antagonist at me in the last season and expect her to be anything more than annoying to see on screen. I don't care if she is Sarah Connor. That doesn't matter here. She's boring. Secondly, she is not even needed, and dare I say, the story would actually work better without her in it. Let's highlight exactly what she does for this story. She is the reason 11 feels she needs to kill herself, and the reason the military is looking for 11. That's about it. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I think that 11 realizing that she can't stick around is actually a really cool concept. I love when evil is depicted as a cycle, and I think we could still have that imagery without Dr. K and do it better. And let me just say, it requires us removing 8. So, before I explain my idea for how this works with the plot, let me say why she needs to go. When I first saw 8 on screen, it just felt wrong. Now, she in no way annoyed me as Dr. K, and does play a big role into 11 realizing that she can't be allowed to live. She's also the whole reason 11 is secretly able to be alive for that huge twist. But her inclusion in this season just felt like the writers being like, damn, we really did make that terrible episode in season 2 with no real plan. Well, we can't have people thinking we're bad writers now, can we? So go ahead and throw her in this already crowded final season. I'm sure the people will love it. What I'm trying to say is she does not feel like she's here to better the story, but rather to fix a mistake that the vast majority of the fan base didn't even care about anymore. It was just a silly joke. To those of you who liked that 8 was here, please put down your pitchforks, because I do think she's a fine character and even fun to watch at some points. But here is my way of removing both of these characters and making it to where I believe the season is better for it. Dr. K is easy. She literally just isn't here anymore, but all of her important lines that help us and 11 realize this problem won't end are now replaced by Vecna fucking with 11 in little mind visits. I think having 11 getting trolled by Vecna 24/7, breaking down her psyche little by little the way he does with his victims would be such a cool thing to see from time to time. He has the most beef with her, so him mentally torturing her would not only make him more detestable, but it would also make the final fight so much more satisfying when he finally goes down. Now, I don't want these visits to seem malicious, because I actually want it to be Vecna trying to convince 11 to join him. I know he said he doesn't care about that anymore in the past season, but I like the idea of this being depicted as less of a, "we could rule the world together, 11, and more of a narcissistic quality in him. Like he is so obsessed with his power being superior that seeing others use it in a way he deems incorrect infuriates him. Now, for plot purposes, it's important these happen before she reaches the lab in the Upside Down. And I want Vecna doing everything he can to make 11 think she needs to go there to find them. The timing of these little mind visits could be cool as well, but I think the best way to introduce them to the audience is when Holly is first abducted. Depicted like a demented, "it's been a while" message from Vecna. His message to 11 could be played over the Wheeler's struggle, making this action by him feel even more evil than it already is. Since 11 is actively in pursuit of the Demogorgon in this scene, she doesn't have time to tell the group anything about this new development, and she only tells Hopper once she meets him in the Upside Down. Later, after enough of Vecna teasing her and bombarding her with the truth of her situation while she's with Hopper, constantly telling her that even if she stops him, it won't stop the monsters that made him, she convinces Hopper to allow her to go to this lab Vecna keeps showing her in order to find him. Also, yes, I know the soldier they interrogated shows her this, like he is the one who shows her where the lab is, and it is a cool scene of how her and Hopper can work as a team, so I think we could just make it to where the decision to go there is before that interrogation, but 11 uses this scene just to find out the exact location. Also, before I get into the lab, I do want to address the military for a second. Dr. K is a big part of it, and I know removing her changes a lot of their stuff. I don't want to get too deep, just add a scene in the beginning of them making plans to find her with visual storytelling, kind of like a little bit more of that Most Wanted poster they showed of her in the beginning. This shows the audience that they want 11, but we don't know why yet. And I promise, don't worry, I am not trying to create my own plot hole here, because the lab is where it all comes together. Almost the same exact thing happens here as it does in the show, minus Dr. K being involved in the fight at all. And also, sorry Tentacle Monster, you're just a part of the set now. You're cool, but we don't need to have all that. The difference comes from what's behind the door. Instead of 11 discovering 8, she will instead discover the unit full of pregnant women. Obviously, she's confused and horrified, wondering why Vecna wanted her to see this. But as she investigates the area, she understands. She sees that each blood bag has the number 8 on it, with dates going back to more than a year prior. The music swells as we see her walk from stretcher to stretcher, and once she gets to the end of the unit, a glass case comes into frame, blurry in the background. She turns around and sees that this case is filled to the brim with hundreds of blood bags, all from her sister. 11 falls to the floor, understanding that no one survives being sucked dry for that long, and finally understands that her sister is dead. Tears begin to form in her eyes, but then Vecna's voice booms in her head. He says something along the lines of, "I told you, 11, this won't end with me. Humans are weak, jealous little parasites. They bled every drop out of our sister, hoping for just a chance to control the power we possess. They're a cancer, rapidly multiplying just to die with their host. It's up to us, 11, the ones with the real power, to cleanse this world of their imperfect filth." 11 screams out, yelling at Vecna. She says he's wrong, humans are good, and she will stop what's happening here as well as stop him. He replies with something along the lines of, "But can you stop them from sucking you dry?" 11 goes silent. Her eyes widen. Hopper bursts into the room after hearing Eleven scream and witnesses the horror himself. Him and Eleven exchange a look that conveys to us, the audience, that he knows exactly what she's thinking. He's seen the military's relentless attempts to find her, and both him and her understand what this means for her future. So yeah, that's how I would handle Eleven figuring out what she has to do if she wants this problem to truly end, without Dr. K and number 8 being major players in this season, while still managing to address Season 2. Now, we still aren't done. There are a couple different fight scenes that 8 is essential to, but I think those could be solved many different ways, so honestly, I don't need to go too deep. I just think she's not required. We could find other ways to deal with that. I also know she's a big part of Hopper and Eleven's conflict due to this new development, but honestly, just keep the same arguments and scenes we see with them both, just alter them to where 8 isn't a part of it. What is a big thing to address, though, is the twist ending. It's literally impossible without her. And my answer to that might upset a lot of you. We just don't do the twist. And to explain my thoughts around that, we have to talk about my next and final changes. This one may single-handedly be the biggest complaint for most that watch this season, so of course, I had to save it for last. Number 5. The final boss was not interesting and was also way too easy. This is what disappointed me the most this season, and mainly because it had the most opportunity to be amazing. It's the final battle of Stranger Things, where the world's survival is in the balance and our heroes are facing what is supposed to be their greatest foe yet, a literal physical mind flare and Vecna at the same time. And it's over in less than 10 minutes and has perhaps the stupidest plan I have seen in the entire show. I mean, really, how did this beast not absolutely obliterate Nancy in the time it took the crew to climb this actual cliffside? Also, what the fuck are Steve and Dustin doing? Those are pointy sticks! Can you imagine if in a Godzilla movie, part of the final battle with him included people poking at his feet with little sticks and it was working? Like, sure, this monster does look amazing, but everything about how they defeated it was not only stupid, but just too easy to believe. So, obviously, we need to fix this. But first, I want to add a scene that many have speculated online. Do me a favor and stick with me for a second here. It's required to boost this final battle. Like I said, the Demogorgons and Demodogs and Demobats need to be present in the Upside Down again. But not for the whole season. Imagine that at the end of part 1, when we see Will using his powers for the first time, we got one more scene following that. A scene of Vecna bringing the children to his lair, out of breath and limping for he felt the pain Will put his soldiers through. Now, mind you, in this version, Vecna's lair in the right side up is a little different looking. It's just the 12 pillars, arching into his point where he connects. Anyway, as the kids float towards their respective pillars, Vecna looked towards the sky, revealing that above his lair is the maleficent, cloudy manifestation that is the Mind Flare. He puts his hand toward it, and it starts to swirl around if it's a cyclone, and then we hear it screech. We cut to scenes of all the Demogorgons, Demobats, and Demodogs reacting to this screech in the Upside Down, and instantly they begin to run and scale the walls of the wormhole back to their homeland. We cut back to his lair, and begin to see his army turn into goo as they approach, just like the people from Season 3 did before morphing into the monster in that season. As they fuse with his pillars, we see the walls of his base grow. We cut to the Mind Flare, and we now see that its cyclone shape has started to funnel into the tip of this monstrous castle Vecna has created. Then we cut to black. This scene would be such a welcome addition, and it's one that many have already theorized as they rage about the absence of these creatures this season. And on top of all of that, it would be such a cool callback to the powers we witnessed the Mind Flare have in Season 3. Now, it might mess up the flow of that episode, so maybe it works better as the first scene of Part 2. But regardless, I think this is needed, especially considering how I'm going to change this final battle. So let's get into that. Let's fast forward right to when Vecna unleashes the physical mind flare upon our heroes. Now, as much as I hate their distraction idea, and this may be lazy, I'm gonna keep it. The only thing different about this is that the cliffs are now walls of a canyon that Nancy leads the mind flare into. I think this would make it seem way less stupid, and of course, the absurdity of their insane rock climbing speed is no longer present. Also, just to add, everyone has a gun now. I am sorry, but the whole concept of Nancy not trusting Mike with a gun made me so mad. Like, I know it's a cute brother-sister scene, but this is the end game, and we are past treating them like children. So, everyone now has a weapon that makes sense. Grenades, guns, flamethrowers. I refuse to see them with spears fighting this thing. Moving on, we keep the fight with 11 and Vecna exactly the same as well, right until 11 is about to impale him on the flesh spike. As we watch what we think is the end and see that he's about to be turned into a Vecna kebab, we cut back to the mind flare, and it lets out a ground-shaking screech after its head goes limp and the mind flare collapses to the ground. We see 11 lose her footing, dropping Vecna as she is thrown into the ceiling by the mind flare as it makes impact. She falls back to the floor, losing consciousness as her head hits the ground. We then cut back outside, and our crew watches the dust settle around what looks to be a defeated mind flare. They begin to celebrate, happy that they all won with their lives still intact, all except for Nancy. Nancy is on the ground closest to the beast, and is able to see that upon its flesh, giant red cysts are beginning to form. She screams out to the others from within the canyon, saying that it's not over yet. The group recomposes, watching as the many cysts begin to twitch and bounce. Then we see claws tear from within, and from each of the countless holes erupts a Demodog, all of whom are now trapped in this canyon with only Nancy ahead of them. Nancy quickly sprints the other direction towards a pillar that might provide her with some high ground, but she doesn't have the speed to outrun that growing force of Demodogs behind her. Jonathan screams her name from above. A look of helplessness is on his face. Then, from behind him, we see Mike rushing towards the edge of the chasm, 2 grenades in hand. He throws them in the Demodog's path, and the explosion stops the horde long enough for Nancy to make it to the top of her new defense point. The Demodogs begin to try and scale the pillar, but they aren't able to make it to Nancy before one of her or the others' bullets reach them. Right as it looks like they have the situation under control, Demobats begin erupting from the cysts that have appeared on the creatures' backs, going for our heroes above. This is when we cut back to within the carcass of the mind flare, and 11 regains consciousness. Getting back on her feet, she sees Vecna is hooked back into the children, likely trying to complete his spell while he still can. She quickly raises her hand to drag him down, and in an instant, we see the claws of a Demogorgon slice it clean off. 11 screams and falls to the ground, staring at the blood coming from where her hand once was. She looks up, seeing Demogorgons surround her, crawling on the ceiling and hanging from the walls. Once again, we hear Vecna's voice in her head. Why do you fight so hard for these insignificant creatures that only wish to control you? I have tried again and again to help you understand, but I don't think you're getting the full picture. We cut to each hero struggling as his words boom. We see Nancy beginning to lose her control over the Demodogs. We then see Mike, Jonathan, and Lucas back to back as they're shooting the bats in the sky, all while Steve is getting overtaken by them. These things, these humans, they fight so hard for such a meaningless existence. They live to be afraid, and for that, they are weak. We then cut to within Vecna's mind world, showing that he has found the children and has them cornered inside the minds of that cave. Is this what you desire, 11? A life full of fear where you wake up doing the same insignificant task until you fall dead into your grave? Demogorgons begin to surround 11, getting closer and closer. I hoped seeing what they did to our sister would help you understand, but I see now that you're too blinded to ever be something more than a worthless human. The closest Demogorgon raises its hand, about to strike the final blow to her, and as 11 closes her eyes, we hear, "Goodbye, sister." The screen goes black. Then, 11 opens her eyes. She's still alive, and the Demogorgons are stopped in their tracks. We quickly cut to the outside to see every single creature that was previously moving is completely stopped, almost frozen in time. We go back to 11, and as she looks toward Vecna, we see that he's shaking now. His face whips awake from the trance he was in and stares straight at 11. He releases a strained scream towards 11 and howls, "Jane! Now!" We cut to see that Will is behind all of this. I liked when they did this the first time, and I wanted to keep it in my version, but with more tension. 11 wastes no time, and while Will has control, she throws Vecna straight into the nearest spike with the one hand she has left, impaling him and ending this battle. Every creature falls to the ground, unconscious, and we cut to see Will instantly pass out, blood pouring out of each nostril. Okay, so I know it seems like I'm done, but I'm not. We are jumping forward just one more time. Everything happens the same way it did in the show past Vecna's defeat, like Joy still does the final blow and all of that.
What did you do? I went for that.
But we start adding a few scenes. We add a scene of them bandaging 11's wound, comforting her and helping her get back to where they entered from the squawk. Hopper is already at the base of the radio tower and sees 11 slowly coming down to the ground, using what seems to be the last of her power to get down without slowing the others. Murray is instructed to start the bomb as they all get into their cars and drive for the portal. The group isn't celebrating this time though. Instead, they are all worried about Elle. Her wound is bandaged well, but she's lost a lot of blood. As they approach the last turn before the exit, Hopper has her head in his lap. He's stroking her hair and he says, "You did good, kiddo." 11 smiles at him, but the moment is interrupted as our convoy is stopped in their tracks by a blockade created by the military. Basically envision what happened in the original, but this is now taking place in the Upside Down right outside of the portal without Dr. K there, of course. They pull everyone out of their cars and use the machines to suppress 11's power. She isn't able to fight back, of course, and the others are helpless against the firepower in front of them. The situation is bad, but it soon gets way worse. Right as 2 guards grab 11 and begin to drag her away, an earthquake hits. Everyone stops and looks around, wondering what could be causing this. We then cut back to the corpse of the Mind Flayer, and from its body erupts its true form, the one that we have seen previously throughout the entire show. It tears through the ground into the Upside Down and begins heading straight for our heroes and their captors. The military begins to open fire on it from afar, but the bullets just fly through its body, doing no damage. Hopper, seeing what happened, instantly turns around on the man currently holding a gun to his back, and his words are just loud enough to be heard over the gunfire. "Turn those damn things off before that kills us all." The soldier looks at the Mind Flayer, and then back at Hopper, terrified. "Nothing can stop it except her," he screams as he points at 11. The soldier nods and brings his radio out to instruct them to disable the machines. 11, no longer suppressed, stands to her feet, being helped by the 2 soldiers who were dragging her away. Once they let go, they and the other members of this force begin to retreat through the portal. 11 looks toward her friends and family and says, "Go! I'll meet you on the other side." They all listen, with only Mike hesitating until 11 gives him a look of reassurance. Once 11 sees they're all through the portal, she looks back to see the Mind Flayer, only seconds away from reaching her, the portal, and Hawkins, Indiana. With the last hand she has left, she wipes her nose and thrusts it in the direction of the Mind Flayer. It stops in its tracks, struggling against 11. It's making little ground, but not nearly enough to reach the portal before the explosion from the lab. We then cut to Hopper, Mike, and the others outside the portal. Mike checks his watch and looks toward 11 with horror. "11, it's about to blow! You need to get through the portal!" he screams. Hopper, aware of what she saw in the lab, doesn't waste a second. He begins to sprint back towards the Upside Down, but is thrown back. So, just like Mike in the original version, 11 has the conversation with Hopper in her mind. He pleads with her not to do this, and she begs him to help the others understand. He argues, "Understand what? You can still make it out." Eleven assertively screams back, "And then what, Hopper? I walk out of here and the military just lets all of us go?" He stops and stares at her. She continues, "The others didn't see what we saw, and we both know that if I walk through that portal, they will just start this nightmare all over again." Hopper has tears form in his eyes. "Is this what you want?" His voice cracks as the words exit his mouth. 11 looks at him and nods. He takes one step toward her, and 11 then sprints into him for an embrace and begins to sob. The music begins to swell as they exchange their last words. "I'm afraid, Hop," she says through her tears. "I know, kid. I know. Tell them why. Please tell them why." "I will. Tell Mike I'm sorry. I love you, kid. I love you, Dad." And then Hopper is back in front of the portal. He sees as the blast hits both 11 and the Mind Flare, taking the Upside Down and all that inhabits it into the void. The portal closes. And that's my version of the final fight. In mine, 11 fully dies. I'll admit, I actually did kind of like the twist at the end of the show, but I feel 11 dying would have been a much more solid ending, and also it would just stick with people. This is the finale, and for everyone to get away without more than a scratch just makes it feel less impactful. And I know this doesn't fully fix the plot hole we witnessed from the military. You'd still have the question of, why did they just leave all of them alone after this? But I do think my version makes it slightly more believable. The soldiers who were about to capture her had no idea about what they were messing with. They saw a young girl sacrifice herself to stop this monstrous force from reaching their world. I don't know. I think maybe, just maybe, this would help them understand that they weren't doing what's best and could lead them to choose to leave our crew alone. Next, I want to address another change I made. I feel that this final conversation, while it was really good between Mike and 11, would have been better between Hopper and her instead. I know Mike is her love interest, but to be completely honest, this season, I could barely tell that they were a couple, and their relationship stopped being cute for me after season 2. The most important relationship that I have seen from 11 throughout the entire series has been with Hopper. She has so much trauma, and the name of that trauma is Papa. So come on, let the girl with perhaps some of the biggest daddy issues on the planet give her real father a hug before she goes. Now, before I conclude, I'll address the epilogue. Since the original, in my opinion, did the epilogue quite well, the only thing we're going to do is subtract the twist. I think you could still put something else there regarding the mage's story that's bittersweet, tugs at our heartstrings and such, but we are not convincing the audience that 11 survived. And I know there's gonna be people who disagree with that, but I just think it would have made for a way more impactful ending to what used to be a legendary franchise. So yeah, with that, I'm done making my changes. What do you think? This is all obviously my opinion and my ideas of how this season could have been different, and I'm aware that I am no writer. But I think most of the people who watch this season can agree that at least one of these changes would have improved it. And that's the main problem. There should not be such an overwhelming amount of complaints for the finale to a series that so many grew up on and loved. I mentioned how this hurt me as much as Star Wars, but it's in such a different, more hollow way. So much could have been done differently to make this the finale that we deserved. And so much was already done correctly to make it easy to do so. Easy enough for me, someone who has never written an entire series worth of story before, to make his own version of this season and characters he loved and just feel empty, because what I wrote isn't what I got. But you know what? I'm going to live on, and instead of being haunted by what I didn't get to see, I am just going to choose to be thankful for the first 4 seasons of Stranger Things, and the possibilities they offered for season 5. With that, I implore you to go to this comment section and type your own way you would have done it, because honestly, writing this script has been quite therapeutic for me. Not only that, but I would just love to see all of the possible ways these characters could have been done justice by the people who love them the most. You, me, the fans. Or, you watched this entire video enraged because I didn't make Mike and Will kiss, and to that group specifically, Fuck you, thanks for watching, bye bye.